Okay. Thanks, everyone. That's really filled out nicely. Sorry, I guess you might not be able to see me, but hopefully you can see the rest of the panel if you're sat over there. You don't need to see me. I'm not important anyway. I'm so glad to be joined by Abul Noor, who's ITV's head of YouTube sales. Graham, just to my left, is the COO of Zoo 55, and Mairi, head of media responsibility and partnerships at YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited for this conversation. So the reason we're having you all here is because ITV announced this partnership with YouTube at the tail end of last year. And Abul, why don't you talk to me a little bit about the deliberation that went into the partnership in the first place? I mean, what made that timing right?
Yeah, so I suppose it's, at ITV we're always thinking about how we can take our content and maximise the reach, maximise the viewing opportunities, and of course with YouTube maturing as a platform and moving more into that space where people are consuming it on connected TV, they are consuming content that varies between user generated all the way through to premium broadcast quality content. So for us, we thought the timing was right to move into that space, ensure that our content has got the capability to be discovered by as many people as possible. And ultimately, the more people watching, the more people that can discover that content, the more we can offer our advertisers from a commercial point of view, and enable them to reach as many audiences as possible with premium broadcast quality content.
So is it all sort of about picking up incremental audience, or are there other goals that you're looking to accomplish through the partnership?
Well, I think I'd say this partnership is, the UK bit of it with ITV is quite new, but we've had a long-standing partnership with YouTube for nearly 10 years now. We launched our first channel around The Voice, probably back towards 2016, 17. And so we've been driving incremental audience at a global level for many years, and this is really, I guess, the next iteration of that, very much focused on the UK, very much focused on ITV as a sort of commercial broadcaster in that market. So yeah, it sort of is following on from what we've been doing for many years together in partnership with Mairi and team, and is really about driving new and incremental audiences, for sure.
Mairi, can you speak a little bit about how the relationship's evolved? So it seems like the new bit is essentially that full episodes of ITV shows are being added to the platform.
Absolutely. So I think, as Graham says, YouTube and ITV have partnered for a very long time, very successfully. Perhaps what's changed more recently is the move to using YouTube as a distribution platform at scale. And we see this with many of our partners, actually, that particularly as YouTube becomes ever more present in the living room and on connected TVs, and it becomes easier for people to watch in the living room, then it's a stronger fit as a distribution platform for broadcasters to be able to reach audiences that they're trying to reach on that platform as well. Mm.
So it's relatively early days within the evolved partnership, let's say, even though it's been a longer partnership that you guys have been working together. Has there been any evidence of audience cannibalization at all? I know that tends to be brought up as a common concern when it comes to working with platforms, broadcasters working with platforms.
Yes, I mean, from a commercial point of view, we've obviously had a look at a media planning mix, how ITV YouTube can be incorporated as part of our overall offering alongside ITV Broadcast, ITVX. And when we've looked at bar and advantage data, we're finding that campaign flights can benefit from between sort of 2 to 4 percentage points across the incremental reach curve. So I'm sure many in the room will appreciate once you're getting into those reach curves up at the top end of 80% plus, finding 2 to 4 fresh percentage points in addition to that is really quite compelling. So the initial data and signs and things that we're seeing are really encouraging. We are also obviously tracking the impact of that from a program level, which we're still sort of finding our feet a little bit and testing and learning. But there was reports earlier this week with CBC talking about how audiences aren't being cannibalised and actually they're seeing benefits as a broadcaster. Channel 4 have obviously also gone down this road. With Mairi's point earlier in terms of long form content and full episodes being available on YouTube. So I think, there's other precedents that have been set that are encouraging for us to have some faith that it's not going to be a cannibalistic audience. And yeah, the initial data and the signs that we're seeing are following suit, which is encouraging for us.
Mm. So Graham, talk me through Zoo 55's content strategy. What's been the initial idea? I mean, what's working well so far on YouTube?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that our content strategy is really about, as I said, we've partnered with YouTube for many years, so we're lucky in some ways in that we've got a whole bunch of data to lean on. So we very much take a data-led approach to this in terms of how we can then work with our colleagues at ITV to launch a sort of strategy in this space. So data is first, and then sort of collaboration and partnership with Abul from a commercial point of view. Our editorial teams at ITV and Mairi and the YouTube team is absolutely second. And then ensuring that we're taking an approach that is specific to the audience on the platform. So for example, we started with an ITV channel, but we didn't start knowing that we were going to have just that channel. We've recently launched 6 new channels that are focused on slightly more niche genres around anything from retro to drama to reality. And that's how we wanted to approach this right from the start, using the data that we've got sort of lots of over the past 10 years. So that's something that we've now got live, and I think is really strong in terms of the initial performance that we've seen, both from an editorial and commercial point of view. And then I think it's not about taking a sort of lift and shift approach with ITVX and putting it onto YouTube. It's very much a curated, as I said, data-led approach to content. And that's what I think is driving us, to deliver incremental viewing and audience. So specific examples would be, something like Scouse comedy Go Ed, which is a sort of coming of age, youth-skewed comedy, has performed exceptionally well on the platform. But then the other end of the scale, you've got something like classic Thunderbirds, marionette puppets. It really leans into that nostalgia, and there's a lot of nostalgia viewing on YouTube for sure. And then the third piece is around, ITV is really a home of really premium drama, and we've got lots of it, anything from Mr. Bates to Vera to our soaps, to be honest with you. And we've really started to see some exceptional performance from that type of content. So I think to go back to your original question, it's 3 things. It's data. The platform is rich in data, and we have a lot of access to that, which is great. It's very much about collaboration as well, in terms of working with Abul, working with Mairi, and working more broadly within ITV, using our respective expertise in studios and in the sort of ITV piece of the business. And also, about our premium content. We're lucky to have access to a huge amount of premium content, and we want to be sort of very curated about how we put that on the platform.
You mentioned not having a lift and shift strategy, but being a little bit more curated. Yeah. Mairi, can you help demystify YouTube a little bit for us? Is there certain types of content that tends to be working better? I mean, what is that early data suggesting about, especially broadcaster content?
Yeah, a few different answers to give you. I guess the first is YouTube is such a large platform, and the joy of YouTube is it's a way for audiences to find whatever their particular interest is. And so the way that I take what Graham's saying is it's about knowing the audience that you're targeting and how to tap into them. And that's why the ITV team have gone for a channel focus that taps into those particular audiences and the audiences that they're finding incremental on YouTube. In terms of what we see works well on the platform as a whole, factual has typically performed really well on YouTube. But we also see in other markets, such as in particular Turkey, Latin America and MENA, that actually what they associate most heavily with YouTube is soap operas and telenovelas. So some of these things, I think it's partly just, maybe the way that the market has evolved to date has been more focused on one. It doesn't mean that it always will be that way. And I think there's a lot of potential for different genres and verticals to work. And then at a kind of broad trend level, some of the things that we're seeing working particularly well are podcasts. We obviously just heard about the strength of audio, and we're absolutely seeing that on YouTube as well. We're seeing huge growth in podcasts and longer form content as well, which goes hand in hand with what I was saying about the lean into television. And then the last point I would say is I think one interesting thing, particularly for the UK media sector, is the international potential. It's so easy to tap into those wider audiences outside of the UK on YouTube. And I think that's one of the things we've also seen with ITV, that actually things that you might have thought were maybe a little bit more UK specific actually have a large interest from outside of the country as well.
So from a commercial perspective then, Abul, what's the conversation been like with advertisers? Is it different compared to selling streaming or on ITVX or broadcast via linear? What is the strategy when you're going to market?
Yeah, so, I mean, I spoke about that incremental reach that is obviously attractive to brands and advertisers, and I think at the heart of what we're selling on YouTube, it actually doesn't differ greatly from broadcast and streaming, and what I mean by that is it's brilliant content, right? It's world-class content, and that brilliant content remains brilliant whether it's consumed on broadcast, linear, whether it's consumed on streaming, whether it's consumed on now ITV YouTube as a distribution platform. I know Mairi mentioned that earlier, and that's really what this is. It's a new arm of distribution to find those audiences. So the content that we're putting up on YouTube still has our broadcast DNA, still has those broadcast pillars that we apply. So, we've got editorial inputs, we've got, really high production quality, audio, visual, everything you'd expect from us. We, adhere to regulatory measures. All of our content is to Ofcom standard. So all of those things that we retain on broadcast, linear and streaming still remain true on YouTube. So I think the conversation actually moves slightly away from how do we sell it differently. It's more how do we help brands effectively deliver a campaign according to their objectives, and YouTube now obviously forms part of that mix for us, particularly when we talk about long form and full episodes being available. Almost platform agnostic to a degree. Obviously there's some curation there, as Graham mentioned, but that's sort of where the conversation's moved to. I suppose the other thing I'd mention as well is, with the YouTube maturing as a platform, as an ecosystem, there have been studies that have occurred. Vivo released a study with Amplified Intelligence earlier this year, talking about the importance of premium content delivering higher active attention. So, ITV YouTube were incorporated into that study, and it found that premium content delivered 40% higher active attention than non-premium content. So I suppose it's helping brands navigate that ecosystem, and there's going to be many roles that YouTube can play within a plan. But the part for awareness, consideration, premium impact, that's a role I think ITV can play on YouTube in a similar manner actually that it does on broadcast and ITVX.
So is there any concern in terms of the effectiveness inherent to the platform relative to on TV? I mean, a lot of people do watch YouTube via their TV set, but a lot of people also watch YouTube via their desktop or even their phone. Is there any concern from advertisers in terms of, where is my ad sitting, even though it's against your content?
Today, we've not found that. We're partnering with brands, whether that's sort of long-standing brands, major brands, Samsung, John Lewis, Jaguar Land Rover, whoever happens to be, that are already partnering with us on our other platforms. They are seeing the benefit of finding that new audience on YouTube. And our consumption is higher on connected TV because of the nature of our content being longer form and more premium. And I think they understand that premium content retains itself, as I mentioned earlier. But what's interesting for us, I suppose, is YouTube enables us to partner with more digital-first brands that maybe haven't considered TV content for whatever reason in their marketing mix. We're finding more long-tail brands getting involved and having ad spend with us. We've partnered with Elf Cosmetics, we've partnered with Carmula, we've partnered with ATG ticketing events, around sort of music festivals. So there's a lot of brands that are now coming to us that actually enables them to partner with ITV in an avenue that wasn't possible before. So actually, as a net positive, I suppose, we're finding more brands coming to us as opposed to brands sort of being wary, if you want to call it that. But yeah, again, I think it's people are understanding that has evolved as a platform, and there's different nuances within that.
I think I'd just add to that is that, UK and global level, our content, as Abul's mentioned, is premium all round, whether it's factual, non-scripted, scripted formats. And what we're seeing, both in the UK and globally, is that really lends itself, A to TVs, unsurprisingly. People will watch good content on bigger screens. And B, in terms of the time they're watching it for is significantly higher than the sort of your average. We're seeing big average watch times up towards an hour per session for some of our sort of premium factual and sort of format-based content. So that's real positive overall globally and locally in the UK from an advertiser point of view.
There's been a fairly heated debate around whether broadcasters should be embracing YouTube. At our previous event, Future of TV Advertising Global, industry analyst Ian Whitaker came up on stage, gave a whole presentation about why what you've been doing is actually a bad idea. particularly for the broadcasters, but actually it's a great idea for YouTube. And I'm just sort of curious, I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to that critique, especially now that you're a few months into the partnership as it is. Ian was talking about how broadcasters could be risking falling into the quote-unquote newspaper trap by sort of quote-unquote giving their content away for free to the platforms. Mairi, from your perspective, I mean, couldn't you just turn around and say, hey, YouTube, we've got all of the premium content now as well. Why don't you spend more money with us as opposed to going direct with the broadcaster?
Ian is a very good friend of mine, so we'll obviously agree to disagree in our opinions here. I think it's based on a misconception that YouTube's got it. Like, it's a partnership, and that is fundamental to everything that YouTube does. So the majority of the revenue goes to ITV in this case, and that is the way that YouTube has always been set up. That's the way that we work with creators. It's a partnership, and it's always the creator or the partner that takes the majority. We paid out $70 billion to the industry, to partners and creators over the last 3 years. So I don't think I think the idea that YouTube's sort of taking and then controlling and owning things is misleading. You know, we're a distribution platform. It's up to ITV what they choose to put on YouTube. They continue to retain absolutely full editorial control. If they want to stop at whatever point or take things down, that's up to ITV. And we are delighted to partner with them because we see huge benefits in working closely together. But the idea that it's kind of a YouTube making a land grab at our partners' expense isn't how we see it, because we succeed where our partners succeed.
Abul, anything to add there?
Yeah, I suppose it's come back to that idea of collaboration and partnership. I know we keep saying those words, but they're really important. So, you know, we've moved into this partnership with the thought that we have full sight of our viewing data, we have full sight of our data, which isn't true of, you know, every single platform out there that might offer something similar. And, you know, importantly, we control the ad sales, right? So, you know, the only way you can partner with ITV content directly is via us. And, you know, we work with Mairi and the team to make sure where we succeed together, you know, it's not at the cost of anyone else, I suppose. So it's been a very considered move into this space, and I think the way we're growing in the space, as Graham mentioned, is, you know, testing and learning content, understanding what works. We're not necessarily putting our entire library up there, but, you know, what we think works and where we all benefit as a party is exactly how we want to evolve into this space.
And I think as well, I know we've said it before, but it is incremental. It truly is. So we're not, you know, it's difficult to get some of these audiences, you know, just by having a linear channel on ITVX. These are incremental people who are watching ITV content. So it's really, you know, from that point of view, sort of key part of our go forward strategy to bring in audience and sort of, you know, advertisers.
So we've only got a minute or two left. I just want to understand from each of you, because you're coming at it from different perspectives, content, sales, and obviously from the partnership aspect. How are you going to measure the success of the partnership going forward? Mairi, you mentioned at any time ITV could decide maybe this isn't working for us and feel free to stop. How do you make sure that doesn't happen?
I think it's relationship. From our point of view, YouTube succeeds where our partners succeed. So the goals that ITV have around audience and monetization are therefore our goals. And we keep talking to make sure that we're supporting those and we're working together to build the best strategies to deliver it. Simple as that.
Abul, how are you measuring success?
So I think it comes back to what I mentioned earlier. It's about us maximising our reach and maximising our viewing opportunities, and YouTube is now part of that mix for the reasons we've mentioned. You know, for success for us is we've got ambitious digital revenue targets, we've got ambitious, you know, a pace of growth, and yeah, as Mairi mentioned, it's continuously speaking, making sure we're at the forefront of innovation, things that are going to push that forward and ultimately help us deliver those digital targets we've got in the next few years.
And Graham, last word.
I'm measuring my success by Abul's success, I think. He's the money man. But
Correct answer.
I think editorially, from a content point of view, it's about, it comes back to driving incremental viewing and audience. It comes back to curating to the platform and to the audience that are on that platform. And it also comes back to us working as ITV as a PLC. So we use the insights globally and from working with Mairi and the YouTube team on, you know, what works, what doesn't. You know, do we put a 4-hour sort of super long form piece of content up, or do we need to sort of pivot slightly into shorter form? And you know, from a UK point of view, is that slightly different versus Turkey or the US or such like? So it's a lot about the three things I mentioned: curation, sort of data, and content.
Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Thank you all so much for joining me. Mairi, Abul, Graham, please join me in giving them a round of applause.